I won this thing at an auction. This is a $400,000 truck, and it's called a Relic K5. It's got a big ass supercharger, it's built off of a Silverado, it's a lifted K5 Blazer, and it's really interesting because it has the finest Italian leather in it and no roof. All right guys, welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and today we are looking at my K5 Blazer. I'd like to show you the remote. It looks straight up out of something you would have bought on Etsy for $12, and yet here is a truck they claim is $400,000. Now you can see it's clearly not a Bronco, it's a Chevy Blazer. It's lifted, it's got a lot of cool shit, it's got beautiful paint, and look, I gotta show you this. It's got steps here. It makes all kinds of crackling noises. And yeah, this was an interesting purchase for me. It's not, you guys know I love pink, but this was definitely an interesting purchase for me. Part of me has a short man syndrome, so I wanted to buy a really big car. You ever seen a really tiny guy in a really big car? It'd be the equivalent of looking at, well, I'm just not gonna make that example about, you know, big things going in small. Anyways, yeah.
Stop it. Get some help.
This is interesting because I've never actually really dealt with a lot of resto mods generally, and I don't generally buy them. So buying this as a mistake in the middle of the night because I was bored was truly something to be, you know, invested in. And when I actually saw I won, at first I was kind of like, shit, I didn't expect to win. And then I was like, okay, it's cool. But then now I've realized that everyone and their mother loves this truck. For some reason, people love these things, and I just don't seem to understand them well. First off, it doesn't have a roof, so it's almost like this, like the Elva. It doesn't have a roof, except when you fucking drive this, you're really rich, and it's crazy. When you drive that, you're driving a pink truck, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you know, first impressions are, it's interesting, and we're gonna talk about it, but one of the things I wanted to do with this video generally is a lot of people that may see this video, just like you, may actually never have had an interaction with one of these things in person. And from what I hear, because I hear from a lot of people talking about different things around the car industry, people swear by certain types of restoration and resto mods more than others. People will argue, well, this resto mod versus that company, one does a better job, etc. And so I don't really have that perspective because I haven't owned 14 Brancos or anything else to know what makes a good resto mod or not. But I do know a few things, generally speaking, about craftsmanship and exotics, because you can look around here and see that I have very particular taste with a lot of exotics. So, you know, I decided instead of saying like, well, is this comparable? Because I don't really have any type of real like context to compare it to. I decided to perhaps talk more about, would I buy another one now that I've interacted with it, and how do I feel about it? Like, do I like it? Do I not? And so on and so forth. And so we're gonna go for a drive together so I can kind of explain what makes the K5 Relic either something I would purchase again or something that I just bought in auction and will either make some money or regret buying later. Come on in. Let's go, Barbie. Let's go party. Come on, Barbie. Let's go party.
Barbie, let's go party.
You look like a cool guy.
I am a cool guy. You know, having a Barbie pink Blazer lifted Relic comes with its set of exciting reference points. First off, if you're in this car with more than one man, you're gay. The second part is everyone at your kid's school will love this, beyond love this, and give you a lot of thumbs up for it. And finally, your wife will want to drive it because it's very, very interesting. Now, you know, originally when I told you about this review, I said we're gonna really look at this from how much I actually like the craftsmanship in this and how it's basically built. So I spent a little bit of time with the individuals that built this truck on the phone. And it told me it's built off of a Silverado, so it's pretty cheap to fix and generally speaking, pretty cheap to work with. I said, that's pretty cool. So a Silverado. They're like, yeah. So everything's pretty easy to run, and you can clearly see this. They've etched the Relic name here, but it is a Silverado internally, because you even see the Z51 gauges, and it really has a Silverado feel, like a pickup truck. But it's taller and it's cooler looking. Now, in addition to that, you also have this wonderful screen. And this screen is actually interesting because there's a lot of buttons on it, and it does a lot of things, but it plays music very clean, and it has a lot to offer. And this car, from a performance standpoint, is interesting because when you're going slow, it's slow, but then when it picks up and you hear the whipple, it like hauls ass like crazy, and it's very interesting. It's cool, you know, like the cool factor is very, very high again. Something you don't see with a lot of things or everywhere. It's just interesting, exciting, and different. And for that reason, I think it's worth, at the very least, experiencing. But it has flaws. And the flaws not so much in the idea of it. Like, you could say, well, you gotta jump in the back seats through this. You can't use the bars. You can't really pull the seat forward. These are flaws that would more be focused on the idea of what this truck really is. But you wouldn't buy this truck if those were the kind of flaws you were confused about. Instead, the flaws I want to really focus on are more the flaws of the car itself, meaning the build quality itself and some of the things that occur. Like, we could argue that the steering wheel is not traditional, and all of this is very modernized, but that would also argue that that's what a resto-mod is. A usable version of an old car that probably isn't going to be very classic in nature. But it could have been made to be a little bit less Silverado and a little bit more exciting, especially since I'm told this is a $400,000 car from Relic. Like, they told me this was a $399K build. Now, do I really think it takes $399K to build this? Probably not. But again, like, these are where, if it was a $399K build, I would expect this whole dash to be more classic, more exciting, and modern in its tech, but classic in its design, because the effort would be there. The steering wheel would match the old sense and everything else around it. So I can get over this personally because I actually don't like old cars and I don't really think they matter much. The things that I can't really get over it are the simplistic nature of how this car was built. It really doesn't have a lot of class and elegance. And what I mean by that is the materials in it are pretty cheap. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, the way the parking brake is set here on my foot, it actually works like a normal Silverado. But when you press it, because of the plastic trim around it not being from the Silverado and obviously being from this body, you can start to see that it gets stuck behind the panel. So again, a defect maybe, but this car is less than 1,000 miles. So I don't know that, like, that should be a defect. There's other things like the touch quality of everything. Nothing outside of the paint, not even the leather, feels rather special. Like, everything kind of feels like a mixture of old and new, but in a manner that doesn't really flow together well. And it has a lot of rattles and things that just don't really make sense. Like, the taking off has a significant, like, amount of shake at the beginning, followed by a smooth driving sequence. But the shaking, while at first we thought was a defect, is actually the way the drive shaft is built. So it's, again, not necessarily modern, even though it should be, and it just doesn't quite work there. So, you know, there's a lot of things like this that just bother me in the sense where this car should either be a fully modern car or a fully kind of classic looking car with modern technology. And it really is neither. It feels like, legitimately, it's a Silverado lifted with a bunch of panels and a bunch of paint and no roof, which is cool, except that I originally thought that these seats were waterproof, which, like my Elva, which says it's waterproof and you'll outrun the rain, when I talked to them and I said, hey, like, it's okay because it's waterproof, and they said, what do you mean it's waterproof? This is the nicest Italian leather we offer. So in my head, I'm like, well, wait a minute. You built a truck with the best Italian leather, and if it gets wet, it could get damaged. So that didn't really compute for me, and I didn't really understand the value of that. But nonetheless, it's still valuable to someone, especially if you live in California where it barely rains, or are used to generally driving cars knowing where you're going. So obviously, you're not going to drive this to work every day, but a very pleasant driving experience, to be fair. Like, the car is very elevated, so driving it and with all the openness, without the windows or anything else, you do get a very, very exciting and very well done driving experience. It's tall, Everybody looks at you, everyone takes your photo. Now, I don't know if they think we're gay or they just take our photo because we're in a bright pink truck, or that we flag that we're playing the Barbie song when we ride this truck. But any of the such still won't change the fact that, once again, this is a very interesting and bizarre truck. Now, what do I think this truck is worth? What are these cars really worth? Do I think it's worth paying $400,000 for one? I don't know. I've never been into lifted trucks, so I can't really say I'm probably the #1 demographic for this. I'm sure there are people who swear by these things and are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on getting jacked up F-150s, so I'm sure they'll spend money on something like this. I just don't know that for 400 grand, I think it's somewhat of an acceptable car for the money. Now, I think for 100 or 200, it's an interesting car, and it's a bizarre enough car and exciting enough if you have a collection of cars. No different than a Gunter, no different than an Elva. These are not cars for daily people. They're cars for individuals who already have a ton of other cars and find themselves in a situation where it might be difficult for them to ultimately be able to find something else that makes their driving experience exciting. And this does that really well. It's different, and it hits different, and nothing about it is like something you've had before, driven before. And listen to that, it's crazy. It has power and it runs, which makes it exciting and unique. And driving it on the outside feels generally very good. So, you know, I think it's a very interesting addition to the collection. I'm gonna mainly leave it at my house instead of my office because I don't see myself driving this except while taking my kid to school or going to the beach. But a very interesting car nonetheless. Something that, again, should at the very least be talked about because very few people have the ability to actually buy something like this. And very few of them are out there. As a matter of fact, when I tried to find any information on it, I couldn't. So I don't know that I am the best reviewer of a car like this, but I can promise you that I'm probably the only review on the internet of a car like this, especially a pink one. So let me know what you think in the comments. How gay is this truck? Is this like really bad, or is this like acceptable? Would you drive a car like this on a cool factor? Give me a ranking in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And again, thanks again for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notification, and I will catch you on the next episode for actually exotic car hacks.